Hello friends, it's your old pal the Colonel here. I want to welcome you to another episode of Gold Coast Beamer's Garage. Well, as you can probably see, March is gone and April is here. It's a whole new month and a whole new set of things to look at. We've gotten a whole lot of letters and cards here in the last couple months since we started the Gold Coast Beamer Garage, so I thought today we might go to the mailbag and read a few of those letters and answer a few questions. So let's see what we have here. Now here's a letter from Hoche in Weston. Hoche says, "Dear Colonel, what type of oil should I use in my motorcycle?" Well, Hoche, that's a very interesting question and one I've never heard asked before. But I'm going to tell you what I think. I think if you've got an older BMW like mine, an 07 RT, you can use about any motor oil that you want as long as it's a brand name motor oil and it's the right weight. Now, personally, I'm a Mobil 1 man. And I'm a Mobil 1 man because one of our members who had an identical bike to mine ran his 215,000 miles before he traded in, and it never tasted anything but Mobil 1. Never had an engine problem and would use maybe a half a quart of oil between oil changes. So if you've got an older BMW, I would tell you Mobil 1 is what I use, but any good quality motor oil in the correct weight. This one I believe is 1550. Manual calls for 2050, but this will work and it's done good by me. Now, there's a big but, and I mean this is a big but. If you have a newer motorcycle that has a wet clutch, like most all the new BMWs do, you can't use a traditional motor oil like Mobil 1. The Mobil 1s and many of the synthetics, they have some additives in there to make things nice and slippery and smooth for the engine. But in a BMW with a wet clutch, your engine oil also lubricates the clutch and the clutch plates. And some of those additives don't play very well with the clutch plates. So if you've got a bike that's got a wet clutch, there are a couple things you can do. One, go down to your BMW dealer. They surely have the correct oil for your motorcycle. You can look it up in your manual and see the specification and be sure it's exactly the same as what you're going to buy, because that will assure that it's compatible with wet clutches. Now there's another option, especially if you're a do-it-yourselfer. You can buy your oil online. There's an oil that has a pretty good following and reputation called Motul, M-O-T-U-L, Motul. It's a French oil, believe it or not. And a lot of people take that French oil and they put it in a German motorcycle. And you just wouldn't really think that would work, but it seems to. And you can buy that online. For example, Beamer Boneyard has a great selection of the oils. And if you just put in the year and the model of your motorcycle, it'll tell you the correct oil to buy. It'll be on your door in a couple days. So that's my suggestion when it comes to motor oil. Let's see what else is in the mailbag. Let's see. Okay, this one's from Steve in Delray Beach. Steve says, "Dear Colonel, I seem to recall that you were a veteran of the Coast Guard. The last time I checked, there were no colonels in the Coast Guard, yet you still call yourself Colonel. What gives?" Well, Steve, you're right. There are no colonels in the Coast Guard, and I was in the Coast Guard. But shortly after I got out of the Coast Guard, I received my commission from the governor of Kentucky to be a Kentucky colonel. And it says right there, the Honorable Tom Polygraph, Hialeah, Florida. Now, that was back when Hialeah was a prestigious address. But I am, in fact, a commissioned by the governor, Julian Carroll of Kentucky, a Kentucky colonel. Thanks for asking. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Got a lot of things coming in the mail. Oh, okay, this one comes from Larry in Parkland. Larry writes, "Dear Colonel, my wife is a great admirer of you and Mrs. Sanders. With spring upon us and Easter just around the corner, she would like to know, what is your wife's favorite flower?" Well, Larry, that's an easy one. Mrs. Sanders' favorite flower is Gold Medal All-Purpose. Let's see what else we have in the mailbag. Oh, here's one from Mark in Jupiter. "Dear Colonel, my butt hurts." Well, that's sort of short and sweet, Mark. And there's lots of things that'll cause your butt to hurt, but there's just a couple of them that might have to do with your motorcycle. One, you could be wearing the wrong kind of underwear. You could be wearing cotton underwear that holds moisture, doesn't wick well, and you'll end up with what they call in the motorcycle community, and you heard it before, monkey butt. Well, you don't want monkey butt. There's a bunch of powders and salves and things out there if you have monkey butt, but the best thing to do is avoid monkey butt. Get yourself a good pair or two or three or four of wicking underwear. That'll pull that moisture away, and that'll solve your problems with monkey butt. Now, the other thing is, you could have one of those typical hard BMW seats. And a lot of people change their seats out. I happen to have a Russell Daylong seat on my RT. But let me give you a tip. Before you go spend $500 or more on a new seat, you might want to do what a couple of our members do. They use a sheepskin from IKEA. Now, I'm going to tell you, these two members are the longest distance riding members in our club, and I'm not going to tell you their names out of privacy concern, but I will tell you their initials are Mike Brennan and Dennis Andreasen. And they go down to IKEA, spend about $30 on a sheepskin, throw that over the seat, don't even attach it, sit down on it, and they can ride 1,000 miles in a day, no big deal. So before you spend your money on a fancy seat, try 30 bucks. That might just do the trick. Let's see what else we up. We're down to the last letter in the mailbag. This one's from Eric in Boca Raton. Eric writes, Dear Colonel, I took my granddaughter to the drive-thru at one of your restaurants the other day. When I ordered, I said, I'd like a kid's meal with a chicken leg. The person on the other end said, which side? I wasn't really sure, so I said left. My question is there really a difference between one side and the other? Well, Eric, actually, what that person was asking when they said which side, they wanted to know if you wanted mashed potatoes or tater tots. So in the future, you won't be stumped. Folks, that's it for the mailbag. I'd encourage you, if you have a question or a comment, write it up and send it to us here at the Gold Coast Beamer Garage, or put it on the Gold Coast Beamer Facebook page, and we'll get to it. Until next time, we'll see you around.